Hi everyone, and we are live here on Instagram, and at the same time, we are recording for YouTube. I hope you had a wonderful week and that you enjoyed your weekend so far and that you are ready for next week. So, we start with a short recap of this week, and then I received a couple of questions through which I want to go through first. And if you have any questions, then just write them as always down in the chat and I will go through the questions. So, first, let's start with a short recap of my week. So, this week was again very intense. I can tell you that the past 3 weeks and also the time before Christmas was very intense because we have a project with a very tight deadline with many steering committees in a row, and it's always very tricky because we have a steering committee, and then after 1.5 weeks or 2 weeks even we have already the next steering committee. So you just get from preparing the steering committee, then you have the steering committee and directly you start preparing the next slide for the next session with management board. And of course, this makes it really complex and really tough. So I'm only building slides, only trying to get some results within those 1.5 weeks that we have in between. So it's very tough at the moment, but also very rewarding. I think these projects, we have tight deadlines where it is quite challenging. I personally like these projects because these are always the projects where you can grow a lot and where you can learn a lot. So this was my week. On the weekend, I took some time to sleep. That was really necessary. And today, as always, I prepared some content. So what I want to do now is to go through the questions that I received up front. So if you have any questions here live in the chat, then please write it as always down in the chat. And I will go through some questions that I received on Friday that I haven't answered on Instagram yet. And then I will go through some questions that I have received today. So if you have any questions, then just write them down in the chat. So the first question that I received on Friday was, which consulting tools are crucial for projects? And I would say, it depends on the level that you are. Okay, so of course, if we talk about tools, then of course you need to know how to work with PowerPoint, how to work with Excel. Sorry, this is really important. But of course, we also talk about the typical consulting tools. And I think the most important is that you know how to solve problems. There is a problem solving process in consulting, and you should be aware how this works. Besides that, there are certain techniques that I would also include in the toolbox. For example, how to conduct interviews, how to write notes in meetings, how to do research. These are all very important things that you also need to know. And of course, if we talk about tools and frameworks, there are certain frameworks that you also should know if you work in consulting, like the BCG matrix, like McKinsey 7S model, stuff like that. That really helps you, to solve problems, and that helps you to bring good output on the slide. Then the second question is, do you perform back office or admin type of tasks? How long do you dedicate for them? And the answer is, of course, in consulting, you have a lot of administration to do, especially if you are a project manager, as I am. I would say on the more senior levels, you have the typical tasks like, just managing your to-dos, just managing your emails. This is important. And of course, on Friday, most of the time, you have to do some back office work, like, handing in your traveling expenses, like, doing some office administration. This you typically do on Friday, but this is, what you have most of the time on the junior roles. Of course, once you have more responsibility, once you are a project manager, then you have more responsibilities in terms of, writing invoices, organizing the team, organizing, the traveling, the project. Of course, then you have much more administration going on. Then the next question is, consulting is about getting to valid results quickly. Is the value in research and confirmation? Is there value in research and confirmation rather than discovering new insights no one has discovered yet? So the question is basically, providing or confirmation of a thesis versus providing new insights. And the answer is always, you have to prove your value as a consultant. So as a consultant, you're always very expensive, and much more expensive than if the client would solve the problem internally. So what you have to do in consulting is that you show and that you prove your value every single day. And there are several things that you can do that. Okay, sometimes it's just to confirm existing hypothesis, but in most cases you want to provide new insights. Okay, so even if the client already has some ideas how to do certain things, as a consultant you always try to add some very new insights to enhance the perspective of the client, and also to show them concrete measures and concrete levers to improve their position. And very often is that you try to try to identify concrete measures to reduce costs, to increase cash, to increase revenue, so something that is directly visible in the P&L, because this is basically your return on invest. So the client pays a lot of money for you as a consultant team, and of course as a consultant you want to prove that this has a good return on invest, that this is a good investment. And in most cases you do that if you show that your project has an impact on the bottom line or on a cash position. Okay, this is typically what you try to do. Then the next question that I received up front, and if you have any questions then just write them down in the chat as always. The question was, straight as an analyst in this fall, any tips to hit the ground running, like books, like courses, skills and tips? And of course I have a tip for you, and this tip is that you have to of course check out my consulting preparation course, because there I basically cover everything that you need in your first year. So I talk about all the essential PowerPoint skills, Excel skills, problem solving methods, communication, organization tools. I also talk about my favorite books that I think are the most valuable if you want to prepare for your consulting career. So check that out. And besides that, of course, I would consume free content online. You can follow my channel, but of course, like Heinrich from Firm Learning, also great channel about consulting skills. Check out Excel tutorials that are online, PowerPoint tutorials that are online, just to get the basics. Okay, and also 3 books that I always recommend to read is McKinsey Way, then The Aspiring Advisor, and The Pyramid Principle by Barbara Minto. Those are the 3 books that I always recommend to read before you join consulting. Good, then let's jump into some questions that I received today. And if you have any questions, then just write them in the chat. And one question that I received was my thoughts on BCG in Switzerland. And the Switzerland offices are probably not very different to other offices around the world from BCG. So BCG is one of the most renowned consultancies and most prestigious consultancies that are out there, besides McKinsey and and Bain. So yes, of course, BCG is a great firm. Offices in Switzerland are, of course, salary is much higher there in most cases, and taxes are lower, especially if you compare it to Europe. So this is for many of my friends that I know who work in Switzerland. This is probably, the main reason why they work in Switzerland, or they are from Switzerland, but if you are from a different country, then, the reasons are mainly that you have a higher income and lower taxes. So I can recommend it, but of course it's also more expensive to live there. Then the next question is, will a PhD or 4 to 5 year of experience accelerate your career in consulting? Yes and no. So it depends. I always think, you have 2 options. So the one option is to join consulting, just as an undergrad or, as a graduate. And then I would say, if you just really work hard, then, within, I would say 5 to 7 years, sometimes, I would say 7 to 10 years, sorry, you can make it to partner. And, there is no need to do a PhD or something like that. Okay, so the thing is that if you want to do a PhD, you have to leave the firm for a certain time. And of course, this is the time where you don't get any salary. Okay, so from a pure financial point of view, I would say that it sometimes makes sense to stay with in consulting and don't go out to do a PhD. But of course, if you say you want to do it because you just want to make the experience, then yes, of course, you can do it. If you work in large firms like McKinsey, BCG, and Bain, then they kind of require you to do a PhD or an MBA, after some time, just to get out, to get some new experiences, to also brush up your CV. So in those large firms, that typically this helps, to get to the project manager level, but it's not a hard requirement. And if you talk about, that you have done or that you have already 4 to 5 years of experiences and a PhD before you want to join consulting, then yes, of course, this helps, because, the more senior you are, the more value you can bring to the firm. So that's certainly something that you can do. But if you are making the decision, if you're asking yourself if you should do a PhD or not, I think you have to, evaluate the options, because basically if you are in PhD, if you do the PhD program, and, I thought about that myself, so I had an offer to do a PhD, but I preferred, joining consulting directly and, just building financial independence from an early point on. Good. Then next question here is, how is the current job market in consulting Europe? Are there any hiring versus the other companies in tech which are on hiring freeze? That's funny because I just made a video that will come out this week about hiring freezes in consulting. And yes, there are hiring freezes, especially in the large firms. It varies. There are some rumors out there. Some people say that, some people say this, but yes, in general, you can say that there are some hiring freezes at the moment. And you have to watch my video that I will publish this week on YouTube. But I think, there are 3 reasons or 3 things that you should do. I think number 1 is that you don't panic, because those hiring freezes in most cases are temporarily. So this will probably only last for 3 to 6 months in most cases. So there will be a time when these firms are hiring again. Tip number 2 that I can give is that you double down your efforts, so that you really try to go the extra mile, because competition will be tougher this year. Okay, if there is a hiring freeze, this means that for 3 or 6 months, people don't get jobs, and there will be more applicants once hiring is open again. So competition will certainly increase. So that's why you should double down. And tip number 3 that I can give is that you use the time actively to prepare for your career. So, take courses to learn consulting skills. So check out my consulting preparation course, of course. This is where I talk about all the essential skills that you need in your first years. Then also you can prepare for case studies. You can take the time, to really brush up your CV. This all helps, because competition will increase, and then you want to have used your time. So this is now the time to invest in yourself and to really, really prepare for your career, because, the market is getting tougher and tougher. Good. Do you have more questions? Then write them in the chat. But otherwise, if you don't have any questions, then I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for joining this live session. And I hope to talk to you very, very soon. We do the next live, as always, next Sunday at 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. CET. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Talk to you soon. Goodbye, Johannes.